All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. And today we're tackling a question that seems to be on everyone's mind these days.
Yeah, it's one we hear all the time.
Is Hunter Schafer
A grifter.
or is she gifted?
It's a good question, especially now when it seems harder than ever to separate the real deal from the people just chasing clout.
For sure. And I think Hunter Schafer's like the perfect example of that.
Right.
I mean, think about it. She's done so much already.
Yeah.
Modeling, acting, activism.
Fashion icon.
And she's not even 25 yet.
Crazy, right?
She's been on magazine covers, walked runways for huge names like Dior and Versace, starred in one of HBO's most talked about shows, Euphoria.
Yeah, Euphoria was huge.
But how much of it is real?
And how much of it is just hype?
That's what we're here to figure out.
Exactly. We've got tons of articles, interviews, even a piece from her father.
Oh, wow.
He's a Presbyterian minister, so that's pretty interesting perspective.
For sure. Okay, so let's rewind back to the beginning.
Sounds good.
Schafer was born in 1999, grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. Pretty normal childhood from what I can tell.
Yeah, public school, loved comic books, drawing, that kind of thing.
Typical kid stuff.
But what's interesting is even back then,
okay.
she was creating these really detailed female characters through her art and designing clothes for them too, almost like she was already exploring identity and self-expression way before her transition.
Oh, wow. So she started transitioning in high school.
Yeah, she's talked about how tough that was dealing with bullying and feeling like she couldn't truly be herself.
It sounds like art was a way for her to cope with all of that.
Yeah, it's pretty common for artists to use their work to process stuff, especially if it's something they can't really put into words.
Makes sense.
It seems like those experiences with bullying and finding comfort in art definitely shaped her activism.
Which brings us to 2016 when North Carolina passed HB 2.
The bathroom bill.
That was a tough time for a lot of people.
Yeah, that law basically stopped trans people from using the bathroom that matched their gender identity.
So messed up. And Schafer became one of the youngest plaintiffs in that ACLU lawsuit against it.
Just 17.
I can't even imagine having the courage to do something like that at that age.
I know, it's wild, right? And her dad actually wrote about how he struggled with it all.
Really?
Trying to balance his faith with supporting his daughter. It really shows how complex these conversations can be, even within families.
Absolutely. And even though HB 2 was eventually partially repealed,
Partially.
the fight for trans rights obviously isn't over.
Not even close.
Meanwhile, Schafer graduated high school, got accepted into a prestigious design school.
Wow.
But she decided to defer, to pursue modeling instead.
Interesting.
And this is where I think things start to get interesting in terms of this whole grifter-gifted debate.
I see what you mean, because now she's stepping into an industry that's known for being superficial.
Image over substance.
Exactly, and she's doing it while being openly trans.
So is she using her identity to get ahead?
Or is she trying to break down barriers?
It's a tough question.
Yeah, well, she was quickly signed to a top agency and moved to New York.
Wow.
Walking for all the big names, Dior, Miu Miu, Versace.
That's huge.
And she was very vocal about being trans, challenging these traditional beauty standards in the fashion world.
Which some people saw as genuine advocacy.
Right, using her platform to make a real difference.
But others saw it as opportunistic.
Yeah, maybe even exploitative.
Like, was she just capitalizing on a trend playing into this industry's desire to look edgy and inclusive?
All right, how much of it was real change?
Versus just marketing?
Exactly.
It's a really tough question to answer.
Yeah, it is, but there's no doubt that all of this, her activism and modeling career, set the stage for her big break in Euphoria.
Which is what really made her a star.
For sure.
And that's what we'll pick up next time.
Sounds good.
All right, so let's talk Euphoria.
Okay.
This show was everywhere when it came out.
Oh, yeah, a total cultural phenomenon.
It tackled some really heavy stuff.
Yeah, drugs, sex, identity, all the really tough issues teenagers deal with.
And then Schafer gets cast as Jules Vaughn.
Right, a trans girl navigating all of that.
And her performance.
So raw and vulnerable.
It really connected with people, especially young viewers.
Definitely a lot of critics praised how authentic she felt.
Like she was drawing from her own experiences.
And she kind of was.
Oh, really?
Schafer has said that playing Jules was like revisiting her younger self.
Interesting.
Working through those emotions and challenges she went through during her own transition.
So it's like art imitating life imitating art again.
Exactly.
But Euphoria did more than just showcase her acting.
Right, it launched her into superstardom.
Suddenly, she's winning awards on magazine covers, a full-blown fashion icon.
Yeah. And that's where the grifter or gifted question gets even more complicated.
Yeah, because with fame comes a whole new set of problems.
Totally. The constant scrutiny, the pressure to keep up a certain image, the potential for backlash.
That's got to be a lot to handle, especially for someone so young.
And Schafer has talked about struggling with it all.
Like dealing with anxiety and depression.
The challenges of online criticism.
The feeling of always being judged.
It's rough.
And then there was that whole controversy with her social media post.
Oh, right, where she was accused of promoting trans-medicalist views.
Yeah, basically excluding non-binary identities from the trans umbrella.
It caused a huge debate online.
Definitely brought up some important points about representation and inclusivity within the community.
It shows how complicated it can be to navigate identity politics when you're in the public eye.
For sure, one little comment can turn into a firestorm.
Totally. And it forces people to really examine their beliefs.
It also makes you think, how much responsibility do public figures have?
To be perfect representatives for entire communities.
All right. It's a lot to ask of anyone, especially someone who's still figuring things out themselves.
Yeah, it's a tough balance, trying to stay true to yourself while also understanding that your words and actions have an impact on others.
And for someone like Schafer, so closely linked to the trans community, that pressure's even greater. And then around this time, she also starts dating her Euphoria co-star, Dominic Fike.
Oh, yeah, that was big news.
Their relationship was all over the tabloids,
And then they break up very publicly.
with Schafer revealing that he cheated on her.
Ouch. Yeah, it was a messy situation.
And it kind of played into that whole young Hollywood stereotype.
The volatile relationships, all the drama.
But it also showed a different side of Schafer,
Yeah, it humanized her,
made her relatable.
showing that even with all the fame and fortune, she's still susceptible to heartbreak.
It's a good reminder that behind all the social media and red carpets,
These are real people.
with real feelings.
Exactly.
But even with all the drama and pressure, Schafer's ambition was still there.
Oh, yeah, she wasn't content with just acting.
She wanted to be involved in the whole storytelling process.
I like that.
So she co-wrote and executive produced a special episode of Euphoria,
Real?
focused entirely on Jules' character.
That's impressive, especially for someone so early in their career.
It shows she wants to control her own narrative
To go beyond just being a face on screen.
and be more active behind the scenes.
I think that's a key thing to consider with this whole grifter-gifted question.
Right, is she just riding the wave of fame?
Or is she actively trying to shape her own destiny?
And it seems like she's doing just that.
Oh, yeah.
She's been cast in the Hunger Games prequel.
Wow, that's huge.
It's a massive opportunity for her to show off her acting skills in a completely different genre.
Totally. And her being cast in that says a lot about how the industry sees her.
For sure. Francis Lawrence, the director, even said he was blown away by her audition.
What did he say?
He praised her authenticity and emotional depth.
That's high praise.
So here we have this multi-talented young woman.
Navigating fame, heartbreak, and some really serious social issues.
The question is she doing it all for the right reasons?
Or is it all just a carefully calculated game?
It's time to look at the final chapter of Schafer's journey and see if we can finally answer this burning question.
Yeah.
So after looking at all of this, her activism, modeling, that huge role in Euphoria, and all the new projects she's got going on, where do we land on this grifter versus gifted debate?
Honestly, it's a tough one. She's a complicated person, for sure. A lot of layers to unpack. I mean, there's no denying that her activism early on took guts.
Yeah, challenging that bathroom bill at such a young age.
Right, exactly. And she didn't shy away from being vocal about trans issues, even as her modeling career took off, which definitely challenged some of those old school beauty standards in the fashion world.
But then you have to wonder, was she really pushing for change within the industry? Or was she benefiting from the industry wanting to look more progressive?
Yeah, it's a tough line to walk.
For sure. And that same question follows her into acting. I mean, Euphoria gave her this massive platform, and she's obviously incredibly talented. But did the show's popularity and her own rising stardom kind of overshadow the issues she was so passionate about at the beginning?
It's hard to say, but I do think her willingness to be so open about her struggles, with anxiety and depression, it makes her feel more relatable.
Yeah, it's not the typical picture-perfect image we usually see from celebrities.
Right, it makes her seem more human.
But then there's that whole social media controversy.
Yeah, those accusations of transmedicalism.
It makes you think, how carefully is she considering what she says and does, especially with all the influence she has now?
That's a big question for anyone in the public eye, right? Are they being genuine or just saying what they think people want to hear?
It's like you're always walking this tightrope.
Trying to stay true to yourself, but also recognizing that your words have power.
Exactly. And for someone like Schaefer, who's so closely associated with the trans community, that pressure must be intense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what about the co-writing and producing she did for Euphoria?
Yeah. What do you make of that?
Does that show a deeper commitment to telling these stories, advocating for change, or was it just a career move to boost her profile?
I think there's some genuine intention there.
Yeah.
It seems like she wants to do more than just act.
Yeah, to be a part of creating stories that really matter to her.
And getting that role in the Hunger Games prequel, that's huge.
Absolutely. It shows that the industry recognizes her talent.
It's a chance for her to prove herself outside of Euphoria.
Yeah, show her range as an actress.
But will she use it to amplify the causes she cares about?
Or just focus on her career.
It's a question we'll have to wait and see the answer to.
Yeah, I think the most telling thing will be what she chooses to focus on as her career goes forward. You know, she said before that she feels like her transition has really defined her public image up to this point.
So will she embrace that or try to move beyond it, explore other parts of who she is and what she wants to create?
That's a great question, and I think it's something for all of us to think about, you know. Is Hunter Schafer a visionary, a master manipulator, or somewhere in between?
We've given you the evidence, the different perspectives. Now it's up to you to decide.
Keep watching, keep listening, and most importantly, keep thinking critically about the people who capture our attention and shape our culture.
Because in a world where image is everything, it's more important than ever to separate the real from the fake.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, everybody.